If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, as well as follow me and subscribe to me on all my other social media platforms. What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel. And we are at the penultimate day of the series, day 11 of the 12 days of metal, where it's a holiday collaboration series heading into Christmas with myself and other YouTubers that love metal as well, where we talk about a favorite album of ours from a particular subgenre of metal. And with 2 episodes left, today and then tomorrow on Christmas Eve, we're going to end off with a bang. So for today, we are talking Grindcore. Another genre you could argue is the most extreme metal genre out there. And of course, Grindcore, basically it's a hybrid of so many extreme sounds. Extreme metal in general, death metal, thrash metal, hardcore punk, crust punk, industrial music, and noise mashed together into something that's just uncomfortable for the average music listener to hear, especially early on when the production values were much more lo-fi and raw, and things kind of almost sound like they're about to come off the rails, but not quite. And of course, you know, early bands like Napalm Death and Repulsion perfected this style. But shockingly enough, it's not either one of those bands I'm going with. Because even grindcore, you got other styles like gore grind, porno grind, death grind. This album I'm going to talk about is like traditional grindcore and death grind, because there's a good amount of death metal elements going on this, and that is, of course, Terrorizer World Downfall. 1989, out of the Tampa death metal scene this came out of, because it was recorded at Moorsound. And after all, this was basically, you know, 2 members of Morbid Angel, 1 member of Napalm Death at this point, pretty much, because even though Terrorizer started a couple of years prior to this album, went through a revolving door of members, and then here we get the lineup of Oscar Garcia, Jesse Pintado, David Vincent, and Pete Sandoval, with David and Pete being in Morbid Angel at the same time. Jesse was already now in Napalm Death. Meanwhile, Oscar was just kind of doing his own thing. But they come together and make this album in 1989. And this was one of the first albums Scott Burns did any kind of production work on. And it sounds incredible. Yeah, it may not be as lo-fi and raw as, say, Napalm Death Scum or Repulsion Horrified. It's more proper produced, but it still has that grind aesthetic. It's all about speed, all about heaviness, all about crazy political commentary, and just brutal. Absolutely brutal. But this also borders on death metal a lot, which is why I would consider this a little bit more of a death grind album with the traditional grindcore aesthetic intact, but with a lot of death metal and even thrash metal on here as well, because it gets really thrashy at times. But then whenever they get into like chugging parts for the death metal sections, they really come through in a big way. Songs like Afterworld Obliteration, Fear of Napalm, Resurrection, Dead Shall Rise, which is such a beast of a song. Yeah, 16 tracks, 36 minutes, and some change, and you're in for a wild, wild listen. So that is my pick for Grindcore. Let's see what my cohorts have to say.
Now we have moved. Now we're to day number 11, which, funny enough, is my lucky number 11. So for this day, we're going to be tackling Grindcore, a subgenre that I wasn't really a big fan at first, but as the years went by, I began to become more and more and more into Grindcore. I mean, to the fact that I have had the opportunity to see 2 out of the 3 big Grindcore bands of all time, that being Carcass and Napalm Death, in the same year, which I still can't believe I was able to see both Napalm and Carcass, not at the same time, the same year. Of course, I saw Napalm back in April with Behemoth, and I saw Carcass recently with Amon March. So to me, that's a huge accomplishment to see 2 of the big 4 of, you know, Grindcore and Carcass and Napalm. So, you know, I'm really happy about that. But Grindcore is one of those subgenres that takes what death metal did, but made it faster, like pretty much like 2 3 minute songs, or in the case of Napalm Death, 1 10-second song, maybe 1 minute 1 second song in Napalm. But regardless, I would want an album that, if you saw the Horseman podcast when we did the grindcore episode, I showed this album as probably the most influential grindcore album of all time, that being Repulsion's Horrified. Horrified was released somewhere around 1989, but originally this album was recorded as a demo years before, like I think like 3 to 4 years before, like 85, 86 around there, if my math is correctly. So this demo was actually a demo, but it was released later as an album years later, and it got a huge cult following because this was in 1989 where death metal was beginning to become this huge juggernaut. And like I said, a band out of Flint, Michigan, which a lot of people think, of all places, Flint, Michigan, this band released this monster of an album. It's actually pretty impactful because, like I said, the majority of these songs, they're like not even less than 3 minutes in length. They're like maybe 1 to maybe 2, 2.5, 3 minutes tops in length, which compared to like prog metal and death metal and sometimes even black metal, usually have songs that are like 3 to 4 to 5 minute songs. You have these songs that are like a minute 30, a minute 40, a minute 5. So it contradicts what we as metalheads wanted to have, more epic, longer songs. And with this grindcore with Repulsion has songs that are like I said, they're shorter songs, sweet to the point, but it packs a fucking punch. I mean, from the album cover, which, like I said, hopefully Levi, it is the album cover somewhere around there because I don't have the fucking album, which is one of the albums I need to get eventually in the future. But you know, it's an album that I personally enjoy the living crap out of, next to Napalm Dead, Scum, and Carcass Hard Work, or Wicked Putrefaction. It's one of those albums that has stood the test of time for many reasons, that has inspired so many bands like Pick Destroyer and Cattle Decap. Like kind of gets the more modern grindcore in a way, not really, but of course, if you want more information about that, I suggest you all to see the Slave to the Grind documentary, which is a great documentary in terms of grindcore. But Horrified has stood the test of time, being one of the greatest grindcore albums of all time, and one of the most important albums in extreme metal, next to something like Rain in Blood or Scream of the Gore and Left Hand Pad, and so on and so forth. Like I said, it's a very diverse album that you never thought that an album that was less than maybe 20 minutes in length, 15 minutes in length, would pack a punch so impactful that it inspired a whole generation of bands and sub genres like like porno grind and so on and so forth. Like, it's amazing that a band from Flint, Michigan was able to create this album and has stood the test of time. For those reasons, I picked Horrified, Repulsion by Horrified.
What's up, guys? They're just joshing here for the 11th day of 12 days of metal. Today's Grindcore day, and my pick for Grindcore is Pig Destroyer's Prowler in the Yard, their second album released in 2001. And this album is just an absolute monster. This album just rips your face off cover to cover, front to back. This album is just an amazing burst of energy. Furious vocals. Just absolutely face-ripping drumming. Great guitar work. There is no bass on this album, but the down-tuned guitar and the drums fill in enough low end for it to be, kind of forgivable in that aspect. But as with most grindcore, there's a lot of songs on this album, 22 songs in fact. It runs about 35-ish minutes, and yeah, there's songs on here that are as short as like 20 seconds. It's great. Pretty much every song on this album is great. I don't have an issue with any of the songs, but my top favorites are Cheerleader Corpses, Scatology Homework, Trojan Whore, Heart and Crossbones, which has a nasty fucking breakdown in it, just absolute slammer in that song. Body Scout, Snuff Film at 11. Snuff Film at 11 has a great opening riff, or main riff, whatever. kind of Slayer inspired, in my opinion. Really cool riff. And of course, you got Hyperviolet, Starbelly, Junkyard God, and Piss Angel. This album is just an absolute behemoth. And yeah, dude, screw energy drinks, man. We got this album. This album is just pure energy, dude. And yeah, I have heard most of Pig Destroyer's albums. I think the only one I haven't heard is Bookburner. But Pig Destroyer is just an awesome fucking band. And Prowler in the Yard is definitely my top pick for Grindcore.
Grindcore. Not a big Grindcore guy, but so I'm going to keep this short and sweet like most Grindcore songs. My favorite Grindcore record would be, in my opinion, the definitive Grindcore record in all of the genre. In my opinion, the one that started it all. That would be Napalm Death's 1987 debut, Scum. Again, like I said, if you look up Grindcore in the dictionary, you will see a picture of this album right there. It represents all the elements of what is looking for a Grindcore. If anyone starts to listen to Grindcore, that would be the album I would definitely point them to. Yes, so Napalm Death, Scum.
Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of the 12 Days of Metal. Hope you guys enjoyed the following albums that we've talked about on this episode, and I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas indeed. Horns high. See you guys in the new year.